If you're working in construction, environmental services, or any project where there's potential exposure to contamination, there's a specific type of coverage you need to understand clearly: pollution liability insurance. This is one of the most misunderstood areas in contractor insurance, and one of the most common sources of uncovered claims. In this video, I'm going to walk through what pollution liability insurance is, what it actually covers, where contractors get it wrong, why it becomes an issue in both claims and contracts. Let's start with the basics. Pollution liability insurance is designed to cover claims related to environmental damage or contamination. That includes situations where pollutants are released, dispersed, or discovered as part of your operations. This can involve chemical spills, fuel or oil leaks, contaminated soil or groundwater, improper disposal of materials, or disturbing existing environmental conditions at a job site. In many cases, these incidents are not sudden or obvious. They develop over time. By the time they're discovered, the cost can be significant. Here's where misunderstanding starts. Most contractors assume their general liability policy provides coverage for these risks. In most cases, it does not. General liability policies typically include what's called a pollution exclusion. This removes coverage for claims involving environmental contamination. Even if it's unintentional, there may be no coverage. This is where pollution liability insurance becomes critical. It fills that coverage gap. But not all policies are structured the same way. Coverage can vary significantly depending on how it's written. Some policies are project-specific, others are practice-based. Some include transportation or disposal coverage. Others are limited strictly to on-site operations. Simply having a policy is not enough. It needs to be aligned with the type of work you're actually performing. Another key factor is how this shows up in contracts. Many contractors first encounter pollution liability requirements through project agreements, not claims. It's common to see requirements for contractors' pollution liability coverage, specific coverage limits, completed operations extensions, or endorsements tied to environmental exposure. If your policy doesn't meet those requirements exactly, it can delay project approval or prevent you from starting work altogether. Let's talk about where things typically go wrong. The first issue is assumption. Contractors assume they're covered under general liability and don't address environmental exposure separately. The second issue is misalignment. They may have pollution liability coverage, but it doesn't meet contract requirements or reflect their actual operations. The third issue is timing. These gaps are often discovered late, right before a project begins, when there's little time to fix them without causing delays. This is where the risk becomes real. Environmental claims can involve cleanup costs, third-party damages, regulatory involvement, project shutdowns. These are not minor issues. They can be complex, expensive, and time-sensitive. So the way to approach this is not just by asking, do I have pollution liability insurance? Does my coverage actually match my exposure and my contractual obligations? The better question is, that requires looking at three things: the type of work being performed, the environments you're operating in, the requirements outlined in your contracts. When those three areas are aligned, that's when your coverage actually works the way it's intended to. If you're involved in projects where environmental exposure is possible, or if your contracts reference pollution liability requirements, this is something you want to evaluate before it becomes an issue. If you want to, you can visit the link in the description to learn more or schedule a call directly. Better understand your current coverage, identify potential gaps, structure a policy that aligns with your work. We work with contractors in these environments every day. Thanks for watching, and we help make sure this is structured correctly before it impacts your project.